What would it be like if we started to change our vision of the world? How about we start to see the world differently? That was a mission that Romantic poets embarked on. It is believed that Romantic poets have provided the richest body of poetry in the history of English literature. What is certain is that they offered us the possibility of imagining a new world or seeing the current world anew. This double mission is exactly what William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, two of the most prominent Romantic poets, tried to lead in their joint venture Lyrical Ballads. Coleridge was supposed to focus on supernatural elements and discuss them naturally, and Wordsworth was to write about ordinary life and elements but with a fresh supernatural outlook. How did the Romantic movement start? It is hard to tell, but it seems that many scholars agree to consider the publication of Lyrical Ballads by Wordsworth and Coleridge in 1798 as the starting point of British Romanticism. Let's not forget that these so-called Romantic poets were pretty unknown at the time, and the term Romanticism was used to describe them long after. But the question you might need to answer first is about the history of the Romantic movement. What events led these young 18th century poets to embark on this romantic adventure? The events of the late 18th century, especially the French Revolution, played a key role. The revolution gave new hope to these young writers, a promise of a new world and the possibility of building a new structure over the ruins of the old one. Although a big portion of this hope was turned to dust after the disillusionments in the aftermath of the revolution, it was enough for these poets and writers to use their literary power to create a promised land. What was the main focus of British Romanticism?
I'm glad you asked that question. Some say the importance of the individual. Oneself is the primary focus. But we shouldn't forget about the nature, the universe, and the connection between the self and the universe.
Now, in what way are Romantic poets alike or different? Here are some of their areas of interest. Number one is nature. Romantic poets had a complex view of nature. They saw nature and the universe as living organisms that could have both positive and negative consequences for us. In some poems, nature is kind, generous, and has motherly instincts, while in others it is oppressive and dangerous, coarse, and unreliable. The second area of interest is their view of the self. The Romantics had a glorified view of the human mind. They thought that the mind was more than just a passive receptor for the outside world. Human consciousness is alive and worthy of respect. On the other hand, just like nature, it can be oppressive and attempts should be made to make a great escape. Among other areas in which Romantic poets were similar or even different are history and society, as well as the role of the poet in such a society. Who are the most prominent British Romantic poets?
Well, today the most important Romantic poets are known as the Big Six. They are Blake, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron, Shelley, and Keats. There are some women poets in there too, but they are relatively unknown today. Let's not forget about Robert Burns, who is included in some anthologies. The views of the first generation of Romantics, including William Blake, Wordsworth, and Coleridge, were quite different from those of Byron, Shelley, and Keats. While at first Romantics had a more radical view of transforming the world entirely, they by and by alleviated their view and took a more conservative approach. What is certain is that for a period of less than 40 years, they left a legacy whose influence can still be felt today, both in literature and pop culture.